Okie doke.
Good afternoon, West Coast. Good evening, Central and East Coast. My name is Ben Olson, and I have the distinct pleasure and honor of hosting a very dear friend of mine and someone who I look up to in the art field as well. And given this is virtual Comic-Con week, we're going to get into all things Space Jam, how timely, and Balloon Fiesta, and this whole pop culture mishmash. And this guy's been at the center of a whole lot of things. So you know him well. And he's a legend, not just in his own mind, but to me, I have a plaque and it says legend, Daniel Killen. Mr. Daniel Killen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's very humbling to be here.
So, hey man, I've got your work hanging in the studio all over the place. These are just two pieces, your 2018 Balloon Fest and Bugs. I've got all kinds of stuff that you've done, including
if you were anyone else, that would scare me, but okay.
Right, but it's okay because it's me. And for such a long time, before I got to meet you in person, I would see your stuff as I would come out to Chuck Jones events and take a look at stuff and just marvel at the execution of your pieces. And to the point where when I've got two of your originals here, and
oh really? Okay.
Yeah, I got two originals here, and now they're for sale, right? So
I should hope so.
Yes, Tunnel Vision and the Lonely Hearts piece with Pepe Le Pew, and other artists.
Tunnel Vision, I think, wasn't the title change like?
Maybe it was.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. So there was the pieces, and you were out here in 2019 when we did our Red Dot Chicago, and we had Tim Rogerson and Trevor Carlton and RC and you and myself. And the other guys were looking at your pieces and staring.
Yeah.
They're like, "Where are the brush strokes?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "Is it digital?" "No, it's not digital." And it just, you've got this flawless technique.
It's years of therapy, is what that is.
Recording in progress.
It works. And that's Mike Dickin. Don't worry, he's on screen and we can see you. Hi, buddy. It's Tunnel Vision. It's semi.
All are welcome.
Right. So what I wanted to get into tonight, because a little bit of a backstory and stuff, and I loved your work in what you've done in animation, and obviously Iron Giant's a big deal for me. You signed my book. I showed it to the last show that we had, and I love you've got this sense of humor and this wit that's hilarious, and it just seems like it flows naturally into this whole universe of Looney Tunes. And so as we start off tonight, I wanted to say that everything that you're going to see this evening is available at chuckjonescatalog.com/Daniel Killen. Daniel Killen. I'm going to check. Hold on. No, they've moved it. It's Daniel Killen CDCC 2021. It's also it's a long.
Yeah. As a baby, I was Christian. When they christened me, they gave me the middle name of Hyphen.
Look how wonderful.
It just worked out.
It did, because they're like, you know what, we should keep going with the hyphen thing. And apparently we put a lot of hyphens in here. So if you go on to chuckjonescatalog.com, you'll look at the very top one, it's Daniel Killen. You'll see
Incredibly, my surname is hashtag. So
did they even know back then? They were like,
No.
it was just a button on the telephone, and they're like,
luck of the draw, you know.
Look at the draw. Your parents saw down the road, and clearly they did it right. So, hey, buddy, it's always good to see you. And I wanted to discuss a few things tonight. One, being as timely as it is for Space Jam 2, the movie, or Space Jam New Legacy that came out, you worked on the original Space Jam. And to set this up a little bit, Michael Jordan, I'm wearing a Bulls number 48 because it's my Marvin the Martian jersey.
It's very noticeable. Yes,
it is. Well, and so when back in the day when Jordan was playing baseball, just because, and we're so glad that he went back to basketball, but this movie comes out and it's kind of like this relaunch, and I had to tell my kids, because we watched it again last Friday, after the movie's done and the credits, it gets to the credits part. By the way, if you haven't seen Space Jam, it's a spoiler of like 20 years ago. They show Michael coming back on, and his debut is and his number 45. And I told my oldest daughter, I'm like, I watched that live, which makes it feel like all this is like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. You are that old. So what I wanted to, what? No,
good for you.
Yes. I remember watching that game, and I was so excited. And so what I wanted to know was, as you're getting into right before Space Jam, like you're into Warner Brothers animation, which film was that for you as you were in that animation unit? Was that your first film at Warner?
That was my very first film, period. Yes. I ended up doing technically 9 movies in animation in Hollywood over the next 9 years, but Space Jam was my first.
So what was the precursor to that? Was this right out of college, you get the gig with Warner? Was there a build up to it? How many times did you try and submit portfolios? Like, what was that process to get into feature film animation?
Do you want the short story or the long story?
Hour and a half, so you take your time.
Yeah, I'd always wanted to work in animation and be an artist for a living, but I also love the idea of animation since I was a kid. And I was working in a warehouse. I worked in a warehouse for 9.5 years. And one day I just decided I want to change. And my wife at the time asked me, what is it you want to do more than anything? Don't think about how you'd get into it. We'll worry about that later. Just what would you want to do? And I told her I want to work in animation in Hollywood. And she said, Disney? And I said, no, Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers characters, Looney Tunes, is what I grew up with. They always had that sort of self-mocking sense of humor about themselves. There was like a hidden adult humor mixed in. It looked like it was made for kids, but really it was made for anyone of any age. I think there's a quote that Chuck Jones said that he really made them for himself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how I think about when I do my own artwork. But so I said, I just want to work in animation. We'll figure it out. And I knew someone who was an artist at the clock shop at Disneyland. And one day he contacted me and said, they're looking for animators in Hollywood because a lot of animation movies from Disney were getting really popular. And he said there was this class in Puente Hills, not far from the mall they used in Back to the Future, the Twin Pines Mall. There's an ROP class there where you could just take animation lessons. I didn't know if anything would come of it, but I left my job of 9.5 years and got a part-time job picking weeds at the Pelican Hill Golf Resort in Newport Beach. And I took that job because it started very early in the morning, so I could work a full day shift and then drive from there all the way to Hacienda Heights. I don't know what that is. Is that 35, 40 miles maybe, and take these classes. I took these classes on how to animate characters, but also how to do effects animation. Effects animation would be anything that's not characters. And I'm 30, 31 at the time this is all happening. And with effects animation, you learn to do fire and explosions and bricks falling and stuff. And one day, there's a lot of people in the class. One day, after having gotten off my shift, picking weeds at a golf course, I show up and these headhunters were there from Warner Brothers. This is after I've been taking the classes for maybe 6 months. And they said, look, we're working on this movie called Space Jam. It's Warner Brothers is starting up their animation after many years of being dormant. And it's going to be Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan. It's going to be like across, live action, and Bill Murray's going to be in it, and Wayne Knight from Seinfeld, and everyone knew who that was. And we want to see your portfolios. If you got a portfolio with you, go in the back row, and the recruiters will talk to you. And I didn't have my portfolio that one day, but I went back anyway. I went back anyway, and person says, do you have your portfolio? And I lied. I said, yes. They looked at my portfolio up there. They said I could come back. I knew I could do it. So I fibbed. And I went back there, and they told us, okay, we want you to show up and take 2 weeks worth of testing at our Glendale facility. And we'll test you. We'll give you an animation test, paper test. Keep in mind, this is back in traditional animation. We weren't animating with computers. I didn't know anything about computers, and I still really don't know much about computers. But so you're using paper and stuff. And they suggested while you're doing these tests, maybe go take classes at the Animation Union, which is down by Studio City for anyone in the LA area who knows where that is. So I started going to the Animation Union at night, right before they started us with the tests. And I met some neat people. I saw people pointed out to me, oh, this person's really famous in animation. This is a famous animator and stuff. And they taught us how to flip paper in traditional animation and basics of human anatomy and movement. And that was kind of a neat experience. And we started the testing at Warner Brothers for 2 weeks. I think there were 12 of us. They put us in this room. It was like I was like, there were security cameras. I'm like, for some sort of college test, some sort of psychological test to see how the rats perform in a maze. But we are given all these assignments, and all but one of us was chosen. One of us wasn't chosen, but the rest were hired. We're going to hire you. You're going to work on this movie with Bugs Bunny at this facility down in Sherman Oaks by the 405 freeway and the 134. And I got the phone call at home that night saying it was official. We're sending you a contract to work on Space Jam. And it didn't hit me. It hit everyone I told. I went to the Animation Union to take some drawing classes a couple of nights later, and their people greeted me. Hey, I heard you got hired. People I didn't know. And it's like the names went out of who got hired for this Warner Brothers movie. And suddenly I started feeling like a rock star. I'm like, what the heck? I was just picking weeds a few weeks ago. And working in a warehouse, dead-end job in a warehouse, picking weeds. And all of a sudden, after that conversation with, what do you want to do? And my saying I want to work in animation, but not knowing how to make it happen. Here, just a few months later, I was signed a contract with Warner Brothers. And we showed up at Sherman Oaks, this giant, I guess it's a 14-story bank building in Sherman Oaks, right next to the Sherman Oaks Galleria, which is where I knew the Sherman Oaks Galleria because that's where they filmed Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And they got us right to work. We got to know about timing sheets and how the different, just the production, how the production worked. All the effects animation and the coloring of this, the digital coloring of animation cells was done on one floor. And all the character animation was done above. I was hired in effects animation. I was hired at the bottom position, which is in-betweening. And in-betweening, animator will say, let's just say an animator does 12 key positions for a character, or say an explosion. And then a breakdown will do key drawings of movement in between those key drawings. And in-betweener does, like, you know, the 50 drawings in between all those. So we get all the drawings to do to fill in, and that's where you started. But I was given a little bit more responsibility a few weeks in. My first big scene I worked on, if you know the movie Space, the original, well, it's a scene. We're doing shadows. We're doing shadows on the characters of Bugs and Daffy. And they're cast shadows, the shadows they cast on the floor and on the wall. It's a scene where Bugs and Daffy are walking down the hallway. They just saw Michael Jordan's kids sleeping, and they're walking down towards a door, and they're talking about residuals. Hey, are you seeing any of those residuals and stuff? And I'm not seeing any of it. And that's a sense of humor about Warner's I loved. And I was working on that scene. I was kind of put in charge of organizing the different in-betweeners in my group. That scene, we animated the shadows on the door and stuff. And it wasn't until like a week or two into working on it, it suddenly hit me that I was working at Warner Brothers on a scene with Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, and how just impossibly surreal that was. It just sort of hit me. It was a delayed reaction. I couldn't, it hadn't caught up. I hadn't caught up with the moment yet that that's what I was getting to do. And at this time, I started at Warner Brothers, I'm going to say January, right after the holidays of '96. Space Jam would go on to be released in November of '96. And even though it seems like a lot of time, they'd already been working on the movie. And so that was actually a crunch time, all that time, because there's so much to do in traditional animation. Because with traditional animation, you're kind of stuck with what you're doing. You can't change things at the last minute like you can do with a computer animation. And so all the way up until the beginning of fall, we were working on that movie. Just all these different scenes. There was lots of explosions and stuff. I still would go and take classes at the Animation Union. He became a member of the union, Union 839, and there was a camaraderie of all of us younger people. I mean, a lot of the people were younger than me; they're in their 20s, but I couldn't believe it, and I was just so. You got to see how it all worked. And you got to see, they just purchased Hanna-Barbera, and Hanna-Barbera was on one of the other floors, and they go up and have parties. So I get to hang around with animators at Hanna-Barbera. And it's like walking into Christmas and then getting paid to be in Christmas as far as I was concerned. And you get to see style guides of these giant books of how all the characters look from different positions and stuff. And we every once in a while take a break, you go walk around the departments and you see the background artists and stuff. We get to see dailies of things that have been done up until that point. And with live black and white live film footage of the actors with Michael Jordan. And I never got to meet Michael Jordan, unfortunately.
Well, that makes two of us.
Yeah, but they were on another floor. They were working on Bruce Timm, who did the Batman series, was revving up to do the Superman series. You get a tour of the innards of the animation industry right there. And I always appreciated it. You know, I didn't have a lot of people to hang out with who I think appreciated it like I did. because I'd spent so much of my childhood growing up with these characters, and man, you want to get it right. You want to get it right, and it was like it was a tough job. The hours were really unbelievable. Sometimes 60 to 80-hour weeks. And I'm living in Anaheim at the time. We just had bought a house, so I'm going from Stanton in Orange County all the way up to Sherman Oaks, which is not fun, and that's like almost maybe 80 miles a day. 80 miles a day back and forth, but hey, they gave us free dinner, so that helped. every night there's free dinner. It was tons of different things on the menu, as long as they were made out of chicken. Yes. That's what I remember. It was always chicken, and that's where it began with me. I ended up making 4 movies with Warner Brothers, but Space Jam was the first, and I can say the most popular and did the best.
So it's kind of a metaphor for your career getting into animation. You're on a golf course. Michael Jordan's on a golf course.
Yeah, I never even thought of that.
See, and then all of a sudden, like, this hole opens up, right? And you get sucked into the cartoon world, just like you got sucked into the cartoon world. Boom. Really,
wow.
Space Jam, sure, Michael Jordan's in it. Space Jam is about the life of Daniel Killen. As far as I'm concerned, makes perfect sense.
You're a psychologist too, right? I didn't know that, but that's pretty remarkable.
I don't know if psychologist or psychotic. It's one of those things. It starts with psi. Sure. Yeah. So I think there's that nice blend of, as you were talking about that, I'm like, get out. That's exactly what happened to you. And so, and then of course you're working with Bugs and Daffy. Now, you had mentioned really appreciating just the moment that you were in. And, and I would tend to agree, if you're coming right out of college and you're getting in, sure, maybe this is something you've always wanted to do, but you're in it. You had, your path was a little more, entangled as far as you were doing stuff you didn't want to do. And then you get into it. And so you put the work in. I think that's what everybody that I've talked to that's made it anywhere doing anything, right? It's nothing of this stuff doesn't come easy. An artist isn't a thing that things just appear and I push a button on a computer and here's the image. Right. Or something. You have got to put the work in, and it's like, as I would say, it's a lifestyle. Like, I don't have a job, I have a lifestyle. My lifestyle is as a creative, hence your lifestyle as a creative. So like, your brain never shuts off. You're constantly working on your craft. You're training just like an athlete would, because you want to continue to grow. So, I love that you soaked in those moments that you were there and went to. I would have gone to all the floors also. Oh my gosh. Yeah. What was something when you were there working, maybe even when you got in or over the course of the next several films, when you're like, I gotta go see what they're working on here, or something that you looked at, they're like, dang, that just blew you away?
I'd have to say, when I mentioned already, Bruce Timm's the guy behind the Batman animated series and Superman. So we go up there and just take a tour of all the background art and all the they do these clay models of characters, and one of them was very popular, of, say, Superman. So he decided to make one available for sale to anyone working in the building, and very stylized Superman maquette, and we got to buy those. They made special styrofoam things for them. And I just love the craftsmanship of seeing the style. It wasn't just some blank character, and the style they did with all the background art and the designs and the concept art, and it really gets your imagination going. Well, I'm doing the in-betweener stuff, but really, this is really creative stuff. This is really what I want to get into, which I eventually got to do a little bit of a couple of movies later with the Iron Giant, which is also for Warner's.
Giant. Woo! Yes. Yeah. Anyway, love that. Go ahead.
And whenever you think of Atomic Holocaust, think of me, because I drew the Atomic Holocaust for Hogarth's school film. But that but also we take field trips. Groups of us would take field trips. Like we go over to Disney, or we go over to Rich Animation, or we go to the zoo. Yeah, it was a big thing in animation to go over to the LA Zoo with your sketch pad, just draw animals and draw different positions. And there's this whole avenue of art, exploring different types of techniques of art and little field trips that I'd never had before, because I'd always been kind of a lone, I won't say wolf, because I'm a bee personality. I'd say more like a lone squirrel. But just working with other artists, I'd never done that before. Yeah, that's the one big thing I discovered. I think that answers your question.
Yeah. So did you ever get one of those maquettes? Did you buy one?
They were $50. I bought one, and
Do you still have it?
I needed the money. So this is many years ago, like 15 years. I needed the money, so I sold it for $500.
Oh, well, okay. So good investment.
Yeah.
You got 10 times. Bruce Timm, man, Batman the Animated Series, I digested in whole as a kid. Loved that series. Even the Superman stuff too. I love that whole style and what they put together. But
they had a Batman one too. I bought that for $50, and I sold that for $500 as well. But yes,
right. So
I need the money. If I didn't, I would have kept them. But there's just
you give like possible stock advice. Also, do you pick stocks? Should we
invest in Bruce Timm maquettes?
So, hey, I wanted to say for everybody watching on Zoom right now, and then if you're watching on our live stream on YouTube, chuckjonescatalog.com, you can see Daniel Killen's the #1 up there for our virtual Comic-Con, and you can see all the artwork that we're going to go through tonight. And if you have a question, so if you have a question you're watching on YouTube, please pop it in. We have people monitoring that. They will put it in the chat for me. I do have a question for you, Daniel, as we start to segue into some of the Space Jam art to show. And from Mike asks, what was the first work of art that you got paid for? First work of art.
First work of art I got paid for, I did an acrylic painting of what Robert Patrick knows about this. I went through my marine art Wyland phase. And being in Southern California along the coast, there's a lot of galleries at the time, especially in the 90s, a lot of marine art galleries. And very first thing I paid for, I did this acrylic painting of these two dolphins. It was like you're underwater looking up at the beams of light coming down from the surface, and there's two dolphins. And I went to a gallery there along PCH in Huntington Beach and asked them, I'm an artist, and I was just trying to see if they're interested in me selling this. And they said, sure. So they like my art. So that painting, which I know was like 18 by 24 maybe, and it sold. It sold for a few $100s, and from a gallery. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was a neat thing. I didn't get all of that. I got a percentage of it, but it was a big deal for me. Now, it wasn't the old, I'm doing a drawing for a family member, thank you, here's a new pair of socks, but yeah, that was the first thing I ever made money on. This was before animation, 9-to-5 job, but yeah.
Late teens, early 20s.
I was maybe 25, so this is 5 or 6 years before Space Jam.
All right. So we've got another question from our good buddy Don. Don asks, hey, Daniel, I know from talking to you many times that you have influences reaching into Rockwell and Frazetta from an art line.
Frank Frazetta, yeah.
Yeah, I got it wrong. I said it wrong. You said it right. But do you have a favorite influence in the humor side of art, like a classic panelist, cartoonist, and or animators? And he says, and yes, I know one answer will be Chuck Jones. So from the humor side of art, is there someone you're just like, man, I love this?
Later, he didn't show up early in my life. Growing up, I loved watching or reading the Peanuts, but the ones I always found funny were like an old cartoon, BC, about the caveman and stuff. But the biggest influence, without question, was Gary Larson's The Far Side,
Yes.
which I got on board early when he started. And yeah, I just love that sense of humor. I can't get enough of it. I've saved from newspapers back when they were still running as a. I still have newspaper clippings of my favorite ones in a box somewhere, and it was definitely, without question, Gary Larson. I know there's been a lot Gary Larson-ish cartoonist, but he's still my favorite. And I have to say, I can see a lot of his sense of humor in some of the stuff I do.
Yes.
Yeah, Chuck Jones a big influence because of just the different. I think it'd have to be mostly Wile E. Coyote because of the quietness. There's nothing's being said. But just like we'll talk about later, a drawing I did involving Sylvester and Tweenie and the subtleness of a bomb in a piece of artwork. But Gary Larson for sure.
So I would agree, because your sense of humor is, it's hilarious. And even when you post little sketches and stuff online, of little quips and whatnot, you've got just a wit that's incredible. And I would agree that I can see that Far Side influence. I love Far Side as well. And speaking of what you mentioned with bombs, what I wanted to get into tonight was, and I'm sorry, Scott Dickin, it's water this evening. The giant margarita will appear tomorrow for Fabio's night. Tonight we're going to go water because that was kicking in a little bit after hour 2 in the last meeting. Yeah, it was a giant margarita. There were like 10 shots of tequila in that sucker, and good night. So anyway, what I wanted to show was getting into the Space Jam art, and you mentioned like putting a bomb in a piece. So Scott Ryder, if you could do me a favor, if we can get into the Space Jam section, we have three. We have several artists that we're going to show with some Space Jam art that's special for tonight. But we are going to start and end the Space Jam part with Daniel Killen. So getting into that kind of wit of things. First of all, I have always heavily appreciated the way you draw all of the characters, because it's more in the classic styles that I love from Chuck and his films. And I'm stare at them all the time, because it's not just the flawless execution, it's the poses, it's the expressions. Everything's so on model with it, and it's so familiar to me and what I love in the characters. So I love that about what you do in your work, and what I wanted to go through in these first three from you. So let's start with this one in Foul.
Well, just to remind everyone, I pose for all of my artwork. So yes. I dress up as the characters, I take a selfie, and then I use that as reference. So
wait, hold on a second. Who was shooting the arrows at you then?
That would be my sister I live with.
Is that a crossbow, or are we talking like traditional arch?
It would be crossbow. I thought of, foul is duck is flying through the air. So traditionally, when a duck flies in the air, you shoot at him. But I know I could already hear Robert going, "Don't use bullets or guns." I'm like, of course not. But then I thought, I was watching a movie. They're doing this thing, The Man for All Seasons. And I'm like, oh, the old days, the olden, medieval, when they had the crossbows that went duck hunting and stuff. So I thought, I'll have arrows instead of missiles or something.
I do.
Because it's traditional. Whenever a duck's in the air, especially when it's daffy, there's got to be something fired at it. So foul. And
I love that. And then let's get into the bomb.
The
Scott,
next one,
get ready for the boom.
Get ready for the boom. And I've only worked on, I believe, I think I've done 2 pieces over the years with Chuck Jones, with Sylvester. And a friend has a cat that's black and white, and sent me a picture of it earlier that day. So I'm like, oh, I'll just draw that. This was actually yesterday. And the sneakiness, because Sylvester only sees the right side of the ball, and this is his chance to get Tweety. But I have to think, well, okay, what's the rub? What's the trick? Okay, make that little wick on the end so there's a bomb. And you don't see what happens next, which is what's traditional with my artwork. I never show what happens next. It's that what's going to happen moment. My brother calls it the what if moment. What happens next moment. And Twee is one of those characters that always outsmarts the cat.
Yes.
The roadrunner, the bird, the roadrunner always outsmarts the coyote. The dog always outsmarts the rooster. So
I'll say yes, you're right. Let's get to no, it looks fantastic. It was just the one hair that you had that was awry. Let's go to tongues of fun. Yeah, no, it's good. You have more hair.
Like ding 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 ding.
At least you can move your hair. Mine has vacated and then has just moved south down to my back, which is not anybody wants to hear the screen. But
I lose hair from stress. I've lost hair from stress a couple of times. I've been losing it just last few months from stress. But
yeah,
it's all anxious to come back.
The amount of hair apparently that you've lost from stress, if you take a look at this, could I just glue it to my head? That would be fantastic, because this is it, people. This is all that's left. So let's get into tongues of fun. I love bugs. I love bugs, and especially the original Space Jam movie. It retained kind of like both him and Daffy. They retain those characteristics that we remember from classic Chuck films. Tell us about this one.
The Hallmark Channel, I always have something on the background. The Hallmark Channel is playing a Christmas music in July, Christmas movie in July. And so I think that subconsciously just went into my head, and I gave Bugs Christmas colors uniform without even thinking about it. It wasn't until this morning I'm like, those are Christmas colors. But the tongues, I've seen pictures, cartoon pictures of sneakers before, and this one of Bugs. That little tongue that's in your tennis shoe that comes out, especially they have the long ones, or used to have the long ones with Converse and stuff, and they look like tongues. And then I'm thinking, well, there's one more tongue. No one ever thinks of the ball's perspective on things. Maybe I thought of a dog sticking its head out of a window during a long trip with its tongue sticking out, panting. And I'm like, what if that's the experience for basketballs? What if they're really into it? They don't care they're being dribbled and stuff. And finally, Bugs just noticed why this is awkward. This ball is enjoying this. I was unaware that this ball was alive, like everything else in cartoon world. And it's just that kind of aha moment. Like, oh my God, the ball has feelings.
Right. And every time he hits the floor, it's, oh, thank you again. Oh,
thank you. This is wonderful. And so, yeah.
All right. So just to let people know too, you're like, it looks like you've painted these things, but you're using
Prismacolor.
I don't know how, there's some things that I just don't know how you accomplish, with that medium. And I'm like, sweet mercy. And I try.
Prismacolor is the greatest invention ever. Yeah. I know you use pencils too. I love your artwork. But
I'll just say that for the audience, right? It's you can, this isn't, sure, it's for kids, whatever, but you can produce some gorgeous pieces with Prismacolor Premiere. This is not an ad. They're not paying us, although Daniel Killen.
Oh, they should.
They should, because and the reason why we like Prismacolor Premiere and a soft core pencil is, Daniel.
A soft core pencil?
Yes.
The Prismacolor pencils, it has a degree of, I want to call it wax in the lead, that it sticks to the paper, and you can actually build on it a little in a way you can't do with hard tip pencils. Like hard tip colored pencils are fine when you're on a white piece of paper, but you do it in a different color paper, it's almost invisible. You can't get the depth, but with Prismacolors you can. And like oil paint, you can get a brightness in colors you can't get with hard lead colored pencils.
Yeah, I the first time I went to, first of all, I never buy anything full price, right? So I went to Blick Art Materials. Again, not paying for it, but if you want to cut a check, Ben Olson with an O at the end. And I went in and, they do their annual sales or whatever. But before we get into the other Space Jam art, because we have some other pieces to show, and we're going to do that here in a second, this kind of begs the question. I'm going to ask this of all the artists through all of our shows this weekend. How addicting is an art supply store? It's extremely addicting, right? And we go in now, colored pencils, that's a $300 and some box of colored pencils. There's 150 in there. Holy crap, that's a lot of money. Yeah,
right.
I paid $92 because I got the sale. And I was like, woohoo! So I'm like, purchase. And when I go into an art store, let's just say it's Blick, because they're right down the street for me. I don't know about you, but I'm going to ask the question. There are things that I use regularly, right? But I buy more than I use up because I'm like, oh, I should probably get another one of these. And it's just a thing. I have to do it. It's not like an addiction, but maybe it kind of is. So I don't know about you, but I can't even, do you know how to say their name? Here it is. I had it upside down. Is it Karendi Ash? Karendi Ake? I don't know.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, exactly. That. Anyway, this non-photo blue pencil, which is what I used to do all of my sketching with before I do ink or pencil or color pencil. Dude, I have like 5 of these still, and I have it in my, like right here in my pencil case, right? There's 2. What do I need another 2 for? I don't know, but I bought it. Okay. And I was just in the art store this week. So that's 1. 2, these Pigma brush pens. They only come in sets of 3. It's $12. I really only want the bold tip. See that bold, fine, medium?
Yeah.
You know what I do every time? I have so many fine and medium tips because I don't use them because I always use the bold. But I'll go in there and be like, oh, well, maybe I could use another one like every freaking month. I don't need to do it's terrible. So the last thing I was going to show was when I go in like paper. I don't know how you feel about paper, but I am specific about paper. There is a difference between different types of paper.
Yes, okay? There is.
Yes. So I love Bristol. I love it. I love the 9x12 pads. I do a lot of sketching on this. It's gorgeous. Now Blick has a nice Bristol, but it's a little tinted. No, I need the pure white paper. So I like the Strathmore. Did I need this pad? I have 5 others up there. I didn't need it. What? It was on sale for $6, so I bought it. And then, because I also like doing this, and I love sketching colored pencils, and because I just want to be like you. So I get this Strathmore Art Game, the 9x12. It's a smooth black paper.
Ooh.
Did you know about this?
You mentioned a nice paper using, but I didn't know the brand name.
Oh, Daniel, let me just tell you. All right, I know you're doing halftones and like half color paper. The smooth black paper from the Strathmore Art Game, right? Delicious. The colored pencils on this paper, fantastic, right?
Wow.
Now, I have 4 pads up there. Did I need another one? No. Did I buy another one? Yes. I don't know why, right? I've got paper to use. What am I going to do? I don't know. I'll figure it out. So I wanted to ask you, and this kind of and we'll ask, Don has another question, but I want to ask you, when you go into an art store or a craft store, right? Is there something you're like, I didn't need it, but I bought it again and again and again?
It's always paper, the Strathmore you mentioned. I go through a lot. Also, I'm always buying extra Prismacolor pencils. And I like getting the white ink pencils, the white ink pens, so you can do little dots in the eyes and stuff. It's like white ink. I always get those, and now I got a giant jar of those. I don't need them. I'm sure a lot of them have gone dry, but we have a real art store here. I mean, you have the fake art store, the run-of-the-mill, the generic, the Michaels, and the Hobby Lobby. There's not a lot of unique art stores anymore, but we have a great one here in Orange County called Art Supply Warehouse. It's in Westminster for people who know the area. And you can tell all the people in there are like real artists, like student artists and stuff, and
covered in paint and everything else.
It's one of those places where you got the old guy over here with his bib on and his artist robe on, and he's worked there for years. He's the kind of guy, I'd go up into him and I'd say hi, and he'd always respond, "Not since college." One of those types of places. something someone in Hobby Lobby or Michael's or it used to be Aaron Brothers would never say.
Right. No.
Because they get fired, but he's not since college. Yeah, paper and pencils more than anything. And it's a great place. It just smells like an art store, you know. And the great supply art place I had working animation was the supply rooms. Because you'd always come home. I still have tons of these electric eraser pen things and mechanical pencil leads and stuff and all this stuff you'd get. You'd borrow.
Yes.
From the supply room.
Still borrowing, clearly.
On my last day, I promise I'll return them. Oops, I forgot to do it.
Well,
got time. But yeah, I love paper. I like paper that grabs. But the Bristol paper, though, that can come in handy too. And but depending what kind of, if you want something really detailed or something you just want suggested. Yeah, I love your color pencil drawings because you can still, depending where you've drawn, you can still kind of see through it in the paper underneath, and the paper itself is acting like a kind of a tone.
Yes.
For the color you just put in that particular section. But there's a few other independent art stores I used to like going, a couple up in LA that are gone.
Yeah, we've got one like
gone.
Blick Art Materials is,
yeah,
they've got a lot of my money. And I've got a Michael's and I got a Hobby Lobby within a block, right? And then Blick is, like 4 or 5 blocks down. And every time, it's terrible. And I'll bring my little kids in there and be like, "Oh, Daddy, can I have a yes?" Art supply? Yes. Yeah, Daddy, can I? Yes. And then they go up to the front where the little rocks and they have the little animal figurines. And Dad, can I have a no? No, I don't need.
Yeah.
Like, but you want to go play with a paint marker? Yeah, I'm down with that. So they just, it's terribly addicting. I know I'd never go there. Dude, I went in for like 2 marker colors. I needed 2 Copic marker colors. Do you know how many came out with? If it was buy 6, you got them at a lesser price. Naturally, I bought 12.
Right.
I didn't need that. I didn't need it, but I did need it. So now I have like, 00 to 020 in purple, whatever. All right, so let's get into some Space Jam art. Like, we wanted to show a few other things. And
I didn't. Oh wait, before you do, I didn't do this art. Some unknown artists on Space Jam did this, but just for the record, when we showed up, they had these plastered all over the studio. I just thought this funny, so I made a copy once. People had plastered these all over the floor as just as motivation for us artists, Yes. I've always loved. I held on to it because this is mine. But yeah,
that's awesome.
I've never found out who the artist was, but I just love that. So
that's awesome. And of course, soundtrack.
Got my soundtrack.
I believe I can fall. I believe I can touch the sky. I don't
interrupted you. I interrupted you.
Oh, you're fine. So what I wanted to do is show Ryder, if you can pull up some whatever the next things are. Yeah, we're gonna go do some Space Jam. Also available now.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. And that paper you used. Oh.
That's actually black press board. It's press board. It's presentation.
Is it really?
Yeah, you know why? Because it's a 15 by 20 piece. So I needed something a little sturdier, and I wanted to experiment because I have plans for this press board stuff in colored pencil. And I'm like, how well is it going to hold up with the colored pencil? And thankfully, it held up. So this is the reverse. It's actually it's a Kobe Bryant dunk. But what I loved about the Space Jam 2 environmental work was I loved how they had a mashup of all the different films, like from Wile-E and they had Planet X and all that stuff in there, and then they put it all in this world around the court. And that, when I saw the stills of that, I'm like, that fascinated me. I'm like, that's actually really cool. I'm like, and then the hoop is from the movie and stuff like that. So that's the reverse. That's just bugs.
So everyone who was just listening to you talk about Prismacolor pencils.
Yes, this is it.
This is what you can do with Prismacolor pencils. Look how beautiful those colors are.
So, and it just jumps. And what I love about working on a dark paper is the fact that, like you can get, like you said, you can get a brilliance on it because you can actually build up your colors kind of like, so I'll start in the middle and then I'll work my lights and my darks after that. But this is my starting lineup. If I had a starting lineup, this would be it. Right. So
Beautiful.
yeah, and then that's looking back in an actual scene, not with the characters like this, but it's an actual background scene from the film. And I love that. So that's 15 by 20 on press board. And then this one, I literally I finished at 5 o'clock. I'm like, here you go, boom. So there's like LeBron is jumping right into a thing, and you can have 6 players on a court, Scott. One of them was the coach. Scott was giving me crap for like Daffy. If you will notice, Daffy is in his suit because he's the coach. There's a scene where LeBron like hits one of those little power up things and then goes. And so I just took, like, I'm obviously not gonna put LeBron in there. We were using Looney Tunes characters. I'm like, man, if they were all going at once, I'd because they get loony, right? The whole kind of premise of like, just loony. And so I'm like, why wouldn't all 3 of them be going? So I love the idea of a Tweety, a Bugs, and a Marvin all hitting, and that background of, unfortunately, Pepe Le Pew's not in this film, but they have this, like France is in part of that background built for Pepe's world, and I love that. And that's an actual scene, and then Bugs, Marvin, and Tweety are taking the place of LeBron. So and then there was, if we're still rolling on, this is my last piece. So this is
that scene where you get stepped on. This is beautiful.
Yes. It's called Foot Traffic. So I'm like, let's do some, like, I've got the poppy arty, Picasso line of stuff. I'm like, this totally fits in with what I'm doing. And, like fully painted edges and all that jazz. And I love this because he gets squashed, and straight up from the film, this is how he looks when he gets stepped on. Now they don't have the foot imprint. That's me. But I painted that. I loved it. I'm like, that's wacky, dude. I'm like, I love, and the poppy colors. So acrylic and spray paint. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks, buddy. So was
that done at 5 o'clock in the morning as well?
That was finished yesterday at like 6 p.m. Right. So and for everybody that's looking for Space Jam stuff, if you look, we'll name the artist. So Daniel's Space Jam art is in Daniel's link. My Space Jam art is under my name on the Chuck Jones Catalog page. Next up, we have, who's next? Dan Bowden. So you'll see Dan Bowden's. Clearly we're on this Prismacolor dark paper, like halftone paper thing, because we love working in this style.
Yes.
So, love this. Yeah, you can definitely tell Killen style, period. So there's something.
Killen style, Bowden style.
Yes. Ben just copies people.
Olson style. Oh, get out of here. You're wonderful. Oh, look at this one.
So yeah, love this one. So you've got like a whole, and then this is a work in progress that he's doing. So this is on chuckjonescatalog.com. And then you look under Dan Bowden's name, you'll find these pieces, which are awesome.
Yes.
Again, Prismacolor pencils, man. I'm telling you, you can create some fantastic artwork with this. And then let's get to the next. I believe we have Preston. So I don't know if you like this dude. I love his minimalist stuff. I love he's got this whole Ballpark Princess line, all this jazz. And he was doing this, and we were texting back and forth over the last week as he was showing me some updates. So I've seen this and loved it. And it's like LeBron's chalk clap, I think it's called. So you can look under, and this is a work in progress also. So this is kind of an homage to that. And if you go into chuckjonescatalog.com, you can see this in Preston's, on Preston's link. So go ahead.
You don't. I was wondering if you did your hashtag thing, or whatever that is.
If we can, yes. So it's under the chuckjonescatalog.com /. Yeah, / Ben Olson, right? You can see that stuff. Also, chuckjonescatalog.com / Dan Bowden, right? Take a look at his stuff. And then, of course, chuckjonescatalog.com / hold on a second. I got to make sure I get this right. And S Preston. There you go. / S Preston. You can see his work in progress stuff. So that's our Space Jam. And you know what I love about, I'm allowed to James name, the greatest of NBA of all time. Oh, Scott Dickin. You know, I feel for you, man. I feel for you. I really do, because it's a shame, and that's okay. You can like LeBron, and he's okay. But for the guy who quits on his team because he gets angry and mad and upset, or he gets fouled and he doesn't like it, compared to the legend greatest of all time who played deathly ill, still beat the game and got carted off with his buddy off the court, I'm going to say there's really no argument on who's the greatest of all time, but that's fine. So this will be to the end of time. Scott and I will have this discussion on who's the greatest, and you can say LeBron. That's okay. I'll let Scott think that way. Everybody can be wrong. So what I wanted to say was, like, in this, Don said right on that one. So yes. In this kind of Space Jam stuff, did it, when you're, asked, like, hey, would you put some concepts together for, Space Jam, did it bring back some, some of that, like what you said, when you were soaking it in when you were there, and then to be able to, like, 24 years, 25 years later, do some concept pieces based on another Space Jam, like, so kind of like moving that forward, did it feel, did it bring it a little bit back?
Yeah, it did. And we were allowed on the lot, and they still had, of course, the giant tent set up for Michael Jordan to do his workouts and basketball, and play basketball there. He'd bring friends of his over to play basketball. This gigantic white tent they built on the lot. Again, I unfortunately never saw him. But stuff like that, memories of that, and little items we were given as gifts. We all had our Space Jam bomber jackets, our animation bomber jackets.
You still have it?
No.
Come on.
Sold it.
What? I
needed the money.
Okay, fine. Don't tell me how much you sold it for, but just fine.
It wasn't $500 for not like the Bruce Timm cats, but little things like little buttons and pencils and stuff, and all that stuff you'd see at the toy store. I'm like, oh my gosh, I worked on that movie. And I still have my Marvin the Martian rocket and stuff, and my Monstar figurines, and I still have my Space Jam Bugs Bunny toy, which I turned into a Christmas ornament. So every Christmas, my Toon Squad Bugs Bunny goes on the Christmas tree. But yeah, it conjures up memories.
So you had mentioned, as you kind of getting in, and the kind of love that you had for the characters, the way they were written, and it is a very different, like, I've always found Disney was more of the theatrical thing, right? Warner Brothers was like the humor in that you couldn't repeat, right? And as far as like what the other studios were doing, and so you kind of, as you're getting into work at the WB, right, Under the Water Tower, around this time, Animaniacs is running hot, like I said, Batman the Animated Series, all that kind of jazz.
They had Warner Brothers stores everywhere.
Yeah, I shopped at Warner Brothers stores, and because growing up with that, like, my attachment to those things, to those childhood memories, and then growing up to find that these films are even funnier as I grow up. You get into Iron Giant and stuff like that, take it all the way forward, right, to now, and do you find that same, I don't know, that same drive, like that sense of humor that comes out where you're just like, things just kind of invent, where you're still channeling those humorous moments into the characters?
The Sylvester drawing and the Daffy drawing, I thought of instantly. It didn't take me hours of mulling over ideas. Sylvester, if he's lying on, okay, the basketball, he's curved like the basketball backboard. Okay, so why would he be, Tweety's coming out. Well, Tweety have a ball. So what's the joke? Well, the ball's actually a bomb. It just, like,
done.
Stuff like that just comes quick. But it helps that, decades of my youth and childhood watching these cartoons.
Yes. Sometimes I feel like the cable guy, like Jim Carrey, when he's in there and, like, he just watched TV all the time, and I'm like, I can't do that. but I'm like, but look at what we did with it. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not going into people's homes and trying to give them free cable. No, we're creating really cool stuff with Looney Tunes.
And look how mature we turned out.
Yeah, I would say, look how mature we turned out. And then where's this stuff? Where's this? Where's my Mandalorian figure? And then I don't know if you know this. What is it? Which one is a Daffy Duck? So did you know, have you collected these?
What?
These.
Those look like Legos.
It's the Lego figurines. It's brand
I didn't
new.
know they had those.
They do have. So when I opened up, I'm in Target, right? I'm buying food for the week for the kids and myself. They all come to the studio with me, and I'm at the checkout counter, right? Impulse buy section, and they have like the little little racks. And I looked at that and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna. Yes, I am. In goes two to the cart, and I get Porky and Daffy, which was awesome. And then my mom is like, son, I saw like all these. Did you know they have Looney Tunes Legos? I'm like, yes, Mom, I do. Well, I got the whole set minus the 2 characters that I just happen to have. So bring in all these guys, and it's a fest. And if I turn the camera around, just like you, it would be filled. Yeah, we don't grow up. I mean, we get older, but that's fine.
We get older, but the hair gets thinner, but we don't really.
Yeah,
I was at McDonald's this morning, and they're selling. I didn't even notice it tonight. They're selling Space Jam figurines again. I'm like, wow.
Yes.
25 years ago they were doing that, and here they're doing it again.
So, speaking of getting, which is what I wanted to kind of segue into this, as you get to do things now in a fine art setting. So go from what you were really love pulling out with that's Dan Bowden texting me. I can't read it yet, buddy, but I will. That was the ding. So you get into the background stuff. You're checking out things as you're working in the, in the studio. You're getting to see all these things. You're like, man, I'd really love to do that. And now you are doing that. And I got to tell you, for everybody that hasn't seen the Balloon Fiesta, which is like the Balloon Fiesta is millions of people. It's this huge thing every year. And I want to start with the 2018 poster. Scott, do you have that? Ryder, do you have that? If you don't, we'll go right to the new one, because the new one, I just saw the new one when I refreshed the page, and I'm like, oh! So we're gonna go.
You actually that sound?
I do, just like that. Just a reaction. It's hilarious when it happens in a store. So go ahead and Scott and take this one. All right, now
that is a new one, yeah.
This is the new one. I love all of your paintings for this. I think they're freaking hilarious. And in the last show we had talked about, I forgot, it's the Duncan Dash is what we had talked about in the last one, and all the stuff that you would put into it that I'm like, holy cow, I didn't even realize that. And you have so much thought that goes in. So this is the newest one for this year's Balloon Fiesta. I believe this wraps the 4, right? Because this is a series of 4.
It's turned into a series of 5, so I'll be doing one more coming.
Look at that. And they're both this time in the basket. So, and I love
the Roadrunner from the storyline. The Roadrunner saved the coyote because the coyote had dunked into the Rio Grande too much in the last poster. So that's why the poster together. Yes.
He's still looking out for him, even though the coyote wants to eat him.
Right.
Give us a little bit of behind the scenes on when you were painting this, because as Scott Dickin is reminding me, this is the first appearance of Bugs.
This is the first appearance of Bugs because they added the 5th poster for next year, and because that's the grand finale, I wanted to have more Looney Tunes characters in it. So in anticipation of that, I want to spend this one introducing the idea that there are other Looney Tune characters involved. So who better to start that up with Bugs, because he's always wished he had made that left turn at Albuquerque.
Yes.
And so that's what that is. But he's not aware. He pops up, the green and red peppers they have there. That's a field of those behind Bugs. And so he's popped up in the ground and he senses something's happened behind him. So it's, again, like with my other art, is that that moment where what's going to happen next. We don't see what happens when he turns around and see what's going on. I was told late in the process that this is something the hot balloonists or the balloonists, hot balloonists, any balloonists, including the hot ones, do. Let me start over. The balloonists have this contest where they have these sandbags attached to ribbons. And when they're coming in low, they have this contest where they throw the sandbags onto these giant X's, these white sheeted X's they have on the ground. So it's a contest. Can you get it right in the middle of the big X? So that's what that is. So they're coming in for a landing, but they're also doing this contest, and Bugs is oblivious to all of it, but he senses something's about to happen. And I try and keep balloons. I've done other paintings to keep a kind of a consistency. It's the same group, and it's the same balloon the Roadrunner's been using throughout the series.
So and Craig's a huge fan of Christmas style breakfast burritos, right?
Christmas style? I don't know what that is.
That's the red and the green peppers.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I can't handle either of them, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I did. We were in New Mexico or Santa Fe years ago when we were doing something for, I forget what it was exactly. I think it was GFG or whatnot. And he's like, you got to try out a Christmas style burrito. I'm like, all right, I will also try some Pepto-Bismol before I eat the Christmas style burrito. Delicious. Internally, a little bit of a problem.
No, so, I can't. My taste buds are way too wimpy. I can't handle anything.
That's okay. So I'm sure this is right up Craig's alley with the red and the green peppers. Craig, clearly this one was painted for you. So now so I love this piece, and up on
I love having bugs in it. Yeah.
And chuckjonescatalog.com/Daniel-Killen, right, is where you can see all 4 posters, including this brand new one. And do you, again, every time I look at the piece, I have to look at it, and then I'll come back, I'll look at it again, I'll find new things. And what really blows me away about your painting style is it's meticulous. It looks like a cartoon that I'm familiar with, except for you've brought an entirely new dimension to it. And it's, to me, it's better than we saw the CG versions of the characters in Space Jam 2. This is a 3-dimensional style to them that, to me, eclipses anything that that would do. So it's definitely a fine art dimensional view of these characters, and it's classic to me, yet brings it forward, just in your shading and everything. And I freaking love it. And so I just wanted to tell you that I'm absolutely in love with all the covers that you've done. I love your artwork, period. But every time you come up with a new thing, so I have no idea what you're going to do for year 5, but I am anxiously looking forward to that.
I have a general idea. Just to mention that, the poster you have in the first one you have behind you in the room there, I was looking at all of them. I can already see an evolution in my style towards these things.
Well, and so what would you say was the evolution, as you look at it?
More and more detail, taking a little bit more chances with realism, I think. Experimenting more with light and color within shadows and reflective light. It just makes it seem like these characters are more inside a real environment.
So we're coming up to the Balloon Fest here shortly. We've got Comic-Con going on, virtually. Getting into those comic style pop culture moments, I'm going to go with Star Wars because it's behind you. So is there a project just that you want to do for yourself? You're like, man, I want to do this for myself, right? Something. I have.
Yes.
Do you have one?
I have one. I've never done it, but I've always wanted to do. I don't know why I've never done it. I think I tried. I came up with concepts, but I've always wanted to do an Indiana Jones poster, like it's a movie poster, like a Drew Struzan.
So yes, and when can we expect that?
I don't. It's owned by Disney. I don't know. I'll have to look into it. But yeah, just the excitement of a new movie coming out next year. I love the Indiana Jones posters.
I think, yeah, by the way, I don't mean like sell. I just want to see it. I want to see it and stare at it.
Yeah, it's
with my phone and print off a copy. I don't know.
Yeah, I think people would say, so I want to paint the mountains with the river stream or something like that. But I guess I tend to be more on the artistic, illustrative side, and also, you know what? Drew, he uses pencils. He uses Prismacolor pencils and stuff in his artwork.
Really?
And we were just talking about that. Yeah. So if you look up his technique, which has inspired me greatly, he works a lot on hard press illustration board, and he'll do airbrushing, and then he'll go in and do a brush work, and then he'll finish it all off detailing with a lot of gesso, but then he'll use to finish it off with pencils.
Huh. So, in that realm of things with mediums, Don had a question earlier, and is there a
that Don guy again? Yes.
Don, we know Don, we love it. Don, and did you know, like I chatted with Don, and finally, and it was my fault because I was finding time, and like Don like knows everybody and has been everywhere, and I'm like, what? I'm like, apparently the dude's hanging out with Walt Disney or something. There was a whole that, when he was little. So like Don,
him and Mark Twain were like this, yes.
They were, and I'm like, Don is a legend, and he just plays it very cool. So Don has a question. What's your favorite medium to work in?
I hate to be boring. I hate to sound like a broken record, but I love working with pencils. It's just so much fun. I think it comes from working with pencils in school. I did some of my best artwork in math class. And
we all did, yes.
And my grades would show that. And I still have some old drawings from high school and stuff. Just the freedom of a pencil. And with the brush, paint on a brush, I feel like there's a responsibility to get it right. But with the pencil, it's just like doodling, only doing it maybe more elaborately, whether it be something like the Looney Tunes we just saw. Which I'll do, I don't know if we're going to touch on that, but I'll do dedication cards.
So that, yes, and it was a good segue because I was going to say we have a comment from Clements and saying, love your work. You have fans, Daniel. You have many, many fans.
I got one right here. It's a comfort zone. It has light.
I knew that was coming.
You just plug it in and turn it on. It's a nice little...
Yeah. Well, so, and there's satisfaction that comes with that. So a nice cool breeze to one side of the face. So when people purchase something of yours, do you see that? When people purchase something of yours for our wonderful virtual Comic-Con experience this weekend, everything that you can see on chuckjonescatalog.com/Daniel-Killen. Thank you very much. You did a great hand sign. You're doing a dedication card. Tell us about what you're going to do for collectors who are purchasing one of your pieces.
I'll do personalized art pieces to the person who purchased it. Also, we spoke about, I did this drawing of a baseball, Bugs Bunny playing baseball a couple of years ago, and we felt it popular enough. I actually went back and did a nice painting of it, and I'd be willing to do that too. To do paintings of one of these drawings that someone really likes, if that's what they prefer, the medium.
Awesome. So we've got that now. Now, when you say you would do an art piece sketch dedication card, is that like 50 characters on one thing, or should we narrow that down?
We should narrow it down.
Yeah. So
maybe the character involved in the art piece.
There you go.
Something more personal.
Just in case people were wondering, be like, dude, I got this idea and I need like these 12 characters doing this thing. And we're like,
right,
maybe that might not be the dedication card part.
This would be a nice sketch version of
Yes. So, as you look forward and you've got these pieces, well, again, you can check out everything Daniel's got going on. It's that your sense of humor is just pouring throughout. are there pieces, when you're coming up with ideas and new ideas for things, is it stuff that either you're watching a film, one of Chuck's films, something comes to mind, and you're like, I got to write that down. Do you have a list of things that you have not gotten to yet?
Yes.
How many items are on that list?
I've got the list somewhere, but yeah, you whenever the idea, because the idea might, next day I wake up, I've forgotten about it. So I got to write it down. And yeah, just these ones I just did. Sylvester / bomb / backboard, so I'll remember it. But yeah, just very vague things like that, but I'll remember. And I did this drawing of the Tasmanian devil, like, was it 2 or 3 years ago for the Jones family gathering, as a Tasmanian devil all happy and in love, because in front of him is a table with a blender on it that's blending. And I get it, because he does that, and he's fallen in love with a blender because it does that.
Yes.
But I wrote down the idea for that like a year earlier, and I came across it. I'm like, oh, right, Tasmanian devil, the blender. You've got to. But I don't put them like on one single piece of paper. I've got like little, those little dinky note cards you get at the dollar store.
Yes.
So they're like everywhere. I'll find them mixed in book pages and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to write them down.
Yeah, I find the moment of inspiration is fleeting, and you're like,
yeah.
Woohoo! And then 10 minutes later, I've already squirrel momented to something else, and I'm like, what was that again? I think
it was great. I can't remember.
It was Daffy, and Daffy was doing this thing, and then I don't remember what comes after that. And you're like, crap, because it was really good. And I don't use note cards. I have like this specially branded paper for myself.
Did you get that on discount?
I did. Yes, I got that for free from my printer, because I give him a lot of work, and I was like, hey, dude, I need these pads of paper. And I don't know about you. And just a side rant real quick, chuckjonescatalog.com. Look at Daniel Killen stuff. That way Scott will allow me to say what I'm saying now, because it has nothing to do with art. So when you write stuff, I cannot write notes or write on paper, right? Even if I'm like writing out, like I'm doing a graphic novel right now, if I'm writing stuff down, if it's not college rule, I can't use it. Regular ruled paper, the lines are too far apart. Your feelings on that?
It's got to be college rule.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There's something about a college rule lined piece of notes. So what I did was I have like, this is college rule. And I don't like the lines like super dark, because if I want to sketch on it, I need to be able to see over the stuff. So I designed my own notepad, and then he printed them for me and then glued them. So this is where all my ideas,
oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
Yes. I'll have to bring you some. I'm coming out in a month and a half. And so I will bring you as a gift. Sounds odd. Notepads.
I hear 3 wise men came to visit you. No, actually, it's just one. Did he bring myrrh? No, he brought college ruled paper, but it was light ink.
Yes. And it was with light lines so that you could like sketch and do little doodles on it, and it doesn't interfere with it. Oh my goodness.
Dude, I got the paper for you.
Quick, open the trunk. So yeah, it's the little nuances of things. I find, like, is there something that we're a little neurotic? I'll say myself. You don't have to say you're neurotic. I've already said I'm psychotic. So this all kind of blends together. Is there something like in an OCD thing that has to be done a certain way? Like, and I'm not saying specifically with art, and with a piece, but as you're concepting things, you're doing prep for a piece you're doing or something like that. Like, I have to write my stuff. I have to leave a space at least between. I cannot have them, because what if something else comes in and then I need a space for that, and I don't want to have to write the whole thing.
I thought I was the only one who did that.
No, and it has to happen, or otherwise it's just, and that's my OCD thing. Do you have and that's for my prep stuff. Do you have an OCD thing? Am I the only one?
No, you're not the only one. I did the same thing. And, but also I got one of those pens that has the 3 inks.
Yes.
And the blue, the red, and the green. So I'll have the main topic will be red. And then the subtopic will be blue. And then the little details will all be in green. I'll put little bullets, little round bullets next to them. Then I'll have to leave 2 spaces between that and the next idea.
Yes, because you might need to put something in between.
You might have to add something, but also I don't want any confusion. Keep in mind, I'm the only one who will be looking at this.
It doesn't
But I
matter.
still don't want any confusion that these 2 things are together. They're separate. And you know they're separate because they each have their own blue ink main idea.
So I started doing, and by the way, Mike Bartelmo says he owns the number 2 of the baseball bugs because he believes that you have number 1.
Oh.
No, but he has number 2. So thank you, Mike. We appreciate your support of Daniel Killen. I have a thing like, so when you're doing I have now listed out. So in my Chuck Jones pieces that have to get done or whatever it is, right? I list them out now from what has to be finished now to, you know, like what I can get to in priority. And then I put little round open circles next to the ones that need to be done, like, and then I get to fill them in.
I love the round open circles because that means it's special.
It does mean it's
and
special.
they're always bigger than the small solid ones.
Yes, because if I have an open one there, and you know, I can have a little solid one, right? And what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It's just a bullet point. But if I have an open one, oh, you better get to that one today. And then when I finish, I get to color it in and then strike the line. There is something very satisfying about that.
I put Scott's going nuts right now, but I put the little solid one.
Yes.
What are they talking about? I put the solid one, so I'll know the next solid one there. So I'll know that first sentence isn't a continuation of the next sentence. That's why that little dot's there.
Yes. Yes, because if it doesn't, and then it just blends together, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And see, and apparently Don says we make him feel great about his idiosyncrasies, right? Because we all have them. It's just
if I mess up and I'm not satisfied with the whiteout, I'll redo the whole thing.
Yes. I just want to, so I have a list, right? And then I strike some items out. Look, there's I'm not going to show you what that is because it's pieces that aren't ready yet. But see that open circle? That's an open circle. But I crossed out too many things, so I had to rewrite it because it had to be clean. Because if it's not clean and neat, right, then I feel disorganized. And you wouldn't know that by looking at my desk because there's crap everywhere.
When I use whiteout, I like using the whiteout tape because it's flat.
Oh, yes.
The whiteout tape goes over one of the college rule lines. Actually, take my pen and put it in the line that got covered by the whiteout. So
this just goes to show you people that, yes, we are. And that's how this stuff comes around. So I wanted to say, Daniel, if you come to like, I'm gonna get just a private message from Scott. Would you get back on point? So I got to tell you, man, I looked forward to when they said they were going to announce a virtual Comic-Con series again, and we did it last year. Had a blast with it. I know you personally, so you're a dear friend. Not only that, you know, I respect you as an artist. So like, this is not just me interviewing an artist that, you know, I've met or I know. This is about somebody who I really appreciate and have a great respect for on a personal and professional level.
The feeling is mutual.
Well, thank you, buddy. And you know, the first time I met you was in Santa Fe, I believe. We were at this. No, was it Santa Fe? No,
San Diego. The Jones Family Gathering in San Diego.
Yes, and it's when Semi-Struck came out, and I think the Logan Harvey Man. And by the way, those 2 originals that I saw on display now in the studio for sale, but they're here. So see, Daniel, it's like this is like an anniversary moment for us, and I have things. So, but I remember, you know, I knew about your work with Warner, and obviously I'm a huge Iron Giant fan, and Space Jam and all that kind of stuff, and then just your work with the Chuck Jones galleries. And so I remember that you know, we're in this beautiful hotels, like very quaint, like I don't know what you would call it exactly, but it was open. It was like just old school French street, whatever feel to it, bricks, you know, brick paved. And you told us about yourself, you showcased some art and stuff like that. And then I got to chit chat with you because like I love animation and I love this kind of art and I love the stuff that you do. And man, you were the nicest person. And it was so, it's great to see like you're a success. I consider you a high success, right? I'm sure consider yourself a high success. And so for someone to be as accomplished as you, to be as accessible as you are, just it made me feel great. I'm like, this is awesome. It's a dude who loves what I love doing, and he loves doing it. He's doing a great job with it, and we nerd out on the same stuff. And that kind of kicked off this thing. And ever since then, it's, hey man, how you doing? And when I'm out there, or we're on this kind of stuff. And it's been a very, like for me personally, rich relationship because I feel that just you give a lot of yourself, and I love your sense of humor and just how you are in connecting with people. And it's been a blast. So to see you on Virtual Comic-Con tonight and to know that you were on the slate when I got the list of artists, I was like, oh yes. I'm like, I wouldn't miss this for the world because I love you, man. I have a great respect for you. I love the new stuff that you have out there. ChuckJonesCatalog.com for Scott Dicken /Daniel-Killen. Thank you very much for the hand signals. And the dedication cards, which he's going to do not 50 characters, just 1 or 2 in a scene, but
really small,
really tiny. Like I would say this big. I don't know, but you've been such a blessing, I know, to Chuck Jones, and I feel like you are someone who is continuing that legacy of humor with art and the characters, and that whole idea of Chuck saying, never take yourself seriously, but take your work seriously. And I feel that you do that, and you to me are a continuation of that Chuck, manifesting himself, even years later. So it's been a pleasure, sir. And I'm going to leave it to you can say your parting shot to the audience here.
Well, thank you,
by the way.
I'm sorry. Oh yeah, thank you so much for all those kind words, Ben. I love you too, and you're a great guy. And I love that there's someone else like me who I know who lives like this and has issues with college rules and stuff, pieces of paper. But yeah, it's been a real pleasure and honor. And I can go into different moods, but I always go back to, wow, it's a real honor to be doing artwork for Chuck Jones. So I have to remember that, and it's got me through that last year with the lockdown, doing little things for them and doing that poster. I was working on that poster starting the end of last year. It just really got me through some tough times. There were some tough moments in my life while I was, drawing Wiley and stuff, and it got me through. So it's been a lifesaver. I don't know what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing this. And so I'm very eternally grateful. And I know very lucky too. I've been very lucky before in my life. And then, the animation did that for 8 years, but then there was this dark period of my life, and then light period and dark period. And then this part of my life appeared doing artwork now. So thank you so much for all those kind words, and to everyone at the galleries too, and the people who've put this together, and Robert and Scott and the other Scott and Craig and stuff, and you, of course. I spent a lot of time not looking at the lens because part of me doesn't quite. I still have confidence issues. I think that's why I keep striving to do better. So it's like I don't quite believe it. So I spend a lot of time looking at the floor. If you want a really good expression of what my floor looks like, I can tell you because I spend a lot of time looking at that when I talk to people. But all those kind words you just said were great. But there's also that part of me that just all I can think of is that stormtrooper helmet way in the background of the room you're in. So, all
right, I'm just gonna. This is like the last minute, right, of the show, and then we kind of close it out. Scott's gonna be fine. We've done a whole lot of Chuck Jones.
Will he be fine?
Yes. /Daniel-Killen. Okay. So
do me a favor. Never direct planes at an airport terminal.
Do you know?
Because if you're going to do this,
yes,
you're going to cause an accident.
They would be all over the place. Hold on. oldest son, bring me Mando, please. All right, I don't know about you, man. You like I love the traditional stormtrooper helmet, right? We got a Boba Fett going on in the back over there. And
You
then,
did not get a Mando. You got a Mando.
oh, it wouldn't be Comic-Con if we didn't do this. Come on.
Look at that. Oh my God.
I mean, I can see you still.
Really?
Yes. Hold up. How many fingers? Hold up fingers. Just give me like a number count. There's 5. You're holding up 5 fingers. 3 fingers. Look at that.
Wow.
You know, I mean,
No offense to you. You're a good looking guy, but you could have been wearing that through the whole thing. It would have been fun.
Next time I will.
And I could hear you just fine too with that on.
No vocal issues whatsoever. I mean, if I had to, I'd wear an earpiece. So anyway, what's up with that? So we'll nerd.
Sir, you have to wear a mask if you're going to be in here. Okay.
Yes. Hold on a second. Let's go buy some groceries. Someone hand me the cart, please. Yeah. So I love this thing. All right, dude. We'll tell you what. We're gonna close it out here again. A huge thank you to you, Daniel, for coming on and doing this. Love all the pieces. ChuckJonesCatalog.com/Daniel-Killen. Thank you very much. Planes are going that way. And thank you to everybody who's watching on YouTube. Thank you. Yes, for watching and being a part of this. And we will see you tomorrow night, Saturday for 2 shows as we continue this virtual Comic-Con experience. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Ben.
My pleasure, buddy.